Hello everyone, welcome to Tutorials by Decade. My name is Decade, and today we're going to actually build some rooms and add a camera to our scene here and have it follow the player. So one thing I want to go over last video, we put all this stuff in here for the collisions tile map, but what I forgot to go over is this composite operation under tile map collider 2D. You need to change that to merge. Now, if you are using an older version of Unity, you'll see a little checkbox here that says use by composite. So you want to check onto that. Essentially what that does is if you have multiple things next to each other, instead of having each individual one have its own collider, it combines them all to one giant collider. For a game like this, it's not going to... hopefully it won't make too much of a difference, but it does have an impact on performance. So it is a good idea to use this composite collider and the composite operation, change that to merge. With that being said, we can go and delete all of this stuff. So don't know what happened to my tile palette, but we'll get that guy back here. Or maybe, where is it? There it is. So we'll put that there. Then we will erase everything. So that's the collision layer, not liar. And then this is the walkable. So we'll just erase all of that and we will start building some rooms. So I don't know if I've ever explained to you how parent and children objects work. But if you have a parent object and then child objects, which are the ones that are underneath it like this, they have like a little indentation. There's usually a little drop down arrow. This is a parent and these are children. So the children are attached to the parent. So wherever the parent goes, the child goes. There are some operations where if something happens to the child, it also happens to the parent or vice versa. But to give you a quick demonstration of that, because you're going to need to know this a little bit as we work on this, we are going to create a capsule. And then we're going to move the capsule to just 1, 1. All right. Underneath the capsule, we're going to, or as capsule is selected, we're going to right click and we're going to go to 2D object and sprite, and we're just going to make a square. Okay. While you can't really see the square, you can kind of see the outline of it as it's highlighted. You notice how the capsule is at 1, 1 for its transform position, the 1, 1, 0. But the square is actually at 0, 0, 0 for its transform position, but 0, 0, 0 is the middle of the player. Well, what happens is that the child's transform position is relative to the parent's. So even though the parent is at 1, 1, 0, the square is at 0, 0, 0 to the parent. So if we were to move the parent over one more on X, you'll notice that the square is still at 0, 0, 0. But if we were to move this to -1, and then move this to say 5, notice how they both move even though we just moved the capsule. So what that means is anytime that you have a parent, if you want that parent to be centered to the world, you want to make sure that they are at 0 and 0, and then the child's position will not only be relative to the parent, but it will also match its normal world coordinates. So -1, 0 would look right here on the normal world coordinates. The only reason why I'm mentioning that is because we are going to create some rooms. And in order to do that, we have to create empty objects. So we're going to right click in the hierarchy. We're going to go to create empty, and we're just going to name this rooms. And for whatever reason, Unity just decides to put it wherever it wants to put it. So there's two ways that we can do this. We can either go into each one of these and just change them to 0. Or in this little, like 3 little lines right there, you can click on that and hit reset, and it automatically puts them to 0, 0, 0. And the reason why you want to do that is because we're going to put our rooms here, which means that anything that we put within those rooms is going to be relative to the parent And if the parent is off, then everything in that room is going to be off. And if you go through all of this work and add all this stuff and then realize you made a mistake and you go into rooms and you change it to 0, 0, 0, whatever that offset is, everything is going to move with that, which means later on when we have transition points, those would move. If enemies, those would move. Chests, signs, any interactable objects for the player, all that stuff would move as well. And yeah, let's just stop that before it becomes a problem and change this to 0, 0, 0. And then what we can do is with room selected, we can right click, create another empty, and we'll name this one room 0, 0. Now you don't have to name these the exact same way that I named them. Now what I'm doing is kind of creating a grid of rooms. So this will be dead center. So it would be 0, 0, 0. So that's why I have it as that. And then, you know, depending on where the next room is, north, south, east, or west, will determine the coordinates for those rooms. Again, you don't have to name it the exact same way I name it. And I will stress this in almost every single video. Naming is important for you if you're the only one working on it, so that way you can remember what an object is. And it's important for a team setting, so that way if you pass this off to a different team member, they know what it is. So again, name it however you want, as long as you know what it is, and as long as those working with you, if you have anyone working with you, knows what it is. All right. So now that we have that, what we're going to do, and again, this is not something that everyone has to do. This is just something that I do just because. Oh, this is new. Anyway, it's just something that I like to do, just because it makes life a little bit easier for me. Again, you don't have to do this. I wonder why my grid's not showing up. Oh, it's because I have the. There we go. But yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna add another empty under room 0, 0, 0, or yeah, 0, 0. Lots of zeros, and name it corners. Then under corners, I'm going to create 4 separate empties. I'm going to name this one UL for upper left, UR for upper right, LR for lower right, and LL for lower left. All right. So now what I'm going to do is with these empties named what they're named, I'm going to go up to here. You see this little box up here with like a little drop down arrow? If you get this little cube, it just means they're invisible, but you can add like little markers. So you see all your options. You also have others here. These are just like little icons that you can use. So what I'm going to do is for upper left, I'm going to use blue. For upper right, I'm going to use red. For lower right, I'm going to use green. And for lower left, I'm going to use yellow. And it doesn't really matter what colors you use if you even want to do this. But as we zoom in, you kind of hard to see because they're all stacked on top of each other. But you notice that little orb right there. So what we're going to do is remember how I said the children are relative to the parent. This is why it's important to make sure that all of these are at 0, 0, 0. We are going to figure out how big we want our room. Now for me, I like them to be kind of like 40 by 60, so 40 wide by 60 tall. Or actually, no, the other way around, 40 tall by 60 wide. So you divide that by 2, because, you know, we're dividing it by half, and this is the upper left. So we're going to go, yeah, that's that way. We were going to go negative 30 and positive 20. So that should have put our little marker all the way up here. And then we're going to do the same thing for the upper right, only it's going to be 30, 20. So there it is there. And then essentially for the lower right, we're going to do 30, negative 20. So it should put it down there. And then for the lower left, negative 30, negative 20. So the reason why I do this is so that way you have markers as to where the room boundaries are going to end. It also helps with whenever you're designing your room. So like I know that I can just come here, make sure that I'm on the walkable layer. I can grab the box fill and I can just click and drag all the way over to there, those two, and then click and drag all the way to there. And that is my entire room if I'm going to do just grass in here. Which I'm not going to do just grass. I am going to add some stuff. So I'm going to do that now. There shouldn't be anything new. If you followed along last video, you should know what to do here. So this part, I'm just going to kind of fast forward through a little bit until we get our first room set up. Okay, so if you watched the last video, you remember me saying something about how I'm going to show you how to kind of direct players into where they go and put like room boundaries up. So for this, what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in on this little section right here. You're going to want to make sure you're on your collisions layer. And what you're going to do is you're just going to create essentially a fence all the way around. Now, you can be creative about it if you want. Like, you don't have to do just, you know, that. You can have, say, something like this where you have that there, but then you put that there with a boundary coming down here. So you don't have to have your map be completely square every single time. And if you've ever played any action RPGs like Zelda, then you would understand that even though the rooms are triangle, or not triangle, rectangular, that doesn't mean that, you know, everything in the room has to be rectangular as well. So now that we've done that, making sure we're still on collisions, we can actually go to box fill here and just boom. So now the player won't be able to go anywhere near there, and then we can just design however we want to design all the way around. And I notice I made a mistake here anyway, so we can just go on to walkable and fix that mistake. But now that you know how to do that, I'm gonna again finish this up and then fast forward through it, and we will go over more here shortly. Okay, so I just created a simple little scene here. Nothing too crazy. You don't want to go overboard, but you don't want to just have a big old empty room. And I know this kind of looks like a big empty space, but we are going to be adding some things later on. Enemies, chests, signs, just a lot of different things. And then we can always add later. So if we get to a point where, you know, we're happy with, you know, the amount of enemies or other objects in the room, then we can start adding more trees or collidable objects, so that way it doesn't just feel like an empty space. All right. So now that we've made this big old room, we hit play. You will notice that our character can just walk out of the camera. The camera is not following the character. So what we want to do to fix that is add a camera. Now, there's two ways we can go about doing this. Way number one, you can go to main camera, and you can essentially drag the main camera to be a child of the player, which if we do that and hit play, now the camera will technically follow the player. We don't want to do it that way though, because it doesn't quite have a good feel to it. Plus, when we get to the edge of the rooms here, you know, I didn't do it for this, but if you get to the edge of the rooms, you'll notice that you'll be able to see into the next room, even though you can't go into the next room yet. So we're going to fix that. While we're at it, we're going to change the projection orthographic to 6. That looks a little better. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to use what's called Sin Machine. So if we go to Windows and then we go to the Packet Manager, this little screen will pop up. Now, again, if you're using older versions of Unity, things will be a little bit different, but essentially you want to go to like Unity Registry, and there's a list of a bunch of different packages that are involved with Unity. We want to go down to Sin Machine. You want to click on that and you want to click Install. Now, again, depending on your computer, this could take a few minutes. Honestly, though, it shouldn't take all that long. So if this is going to take a while, I'll fast forward this. All right. So once all of that goes away, and that means Sin Machine is installed and set up, you can close out the Packet Manager here. And if you go up and right click, you'll see Sin Machine down here. And you'll see a whole bunch of different like things that you can do. And then also up here, I believe it's in Windows. Where did they move that to? Game object. So game object, Sin Machine, and you'll see a bunch of other different things too. We are going to want just well, they've changed it. There used to be a virtual camera. Now I don't see any virtual cameras. So maybe just Sin Machine camera. Yeah, I think this is what we want. So we're going to just rename this room 0, 0 camera. We are going to actually drag this to be a child of the room. We want the camera to be at 0, 0, 0. So lens, we want the orthographic size to be 6. Let's see what that looks like. Why do we not see anything? Huh. All right, well, maybe that's not the right camera that we need. So let's go to game object. Let's go to Sin Machine. Let's go to targeted cameras. Let's go to 2D camera. Maybe that's what we need. Room 0-0 cam. Move that to rooms. Move this to, oops, bring that back. 0, 0, 0. Change the orthographic size to 6. Yeah, I think this is the camera that we want. Perfect. So, why is it still? Huh. Maybe if I change player, there we go. So we want to make sure we have player as the tracking target. So when we go to game, we're there. All right. Now if we hit play, the camera is going to follow the player, but you're going to notice something when we get to the edge. Notice how the camera can see outside of our room. So the way we're going to stop that is, first things first, we're going to go to rooms, or room 0-0. Over here, component, we're going to add a component, and we're going to do a collider. We are going to do a polygon collider. So the first thing you're going to want to do is hit is trigger. We do not want this to be an actual physical collider. Then we're going to go to points, paths, elements, and we're going to change that to 4. Now, if you remember your coordinates from your empties, oh, I didn't drop that into there. There we go. If you remember your coordinates from all of your empties, you can punch those into here. So I do believe the first one is negative 30, 20. And then the second one is 30, 20. And then 30, negative 20. And then negative 30, negative 20. So that puts a polygon collider around the entire room. Now, the reason why you want to use a polygon collider instead of a box collider is because if you're going to be changing the room and make, like, say, an L-shaped room, or, you know, you want to do some weird Tetris-shaped rooms or something like that, with a polygon collider, you can add as many points that you need to add to make that happen. All right. So now we're going to go back to our camera. We're going to go add component, and we're going to do Sin Machine. I do believe it's Sin Machine Collider. No, we don't want the collider. Move component. Confiner, that's what it is. So we want Sin Machine Confiner 2D. You're going to click on that. And right here where it says bounding shape 2D, it says none. We're going to drag our room into there. And now when we hit play, our camera follows our player. But then once the camera itself gets to the edge of the room, you notice it stopped moving. So you cannot see beyond this room. Now our player can still walk through there, but the camera itself does not leave those boundaries. So as we move along, you'll notice you can't get the camera to go out, even though the character can. The camera cannot. And that is how you confine the camera to one room. So what we're going to do with that is, I think we're going to end the video here for now. For the next video, I'm going to show you how you can add more rooms and then have the camera shut off and then a different camera turn on and follow the player in that other room. So in other words, if the player walks to the left into this room, this camera will shut off, but there'll be another camera over here just waiting for the player. And then as soon as they transition, this one will shut off, this one will turn on. And then I do believe there's a few other things I want to go over with cameras on the next one. And then after that, we'll start adding some other things such as enemies or interactable objects. So if this video was helpful to you, or if you liked it, make sure you give it the big old thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe. I have videos like this coming out all the time. If you hit that little bell, you'll get the notifications when those videos come out. This series is going to cover all of making a Zelda-like game, but I do plan on doing some other series, such as potentially a future Final Fantasy series, maybe a platformer like Mario series. I'm not sure if I'm going to dive too much into 3D just yet, but nonetheless, hit that little bell and you'll get notifications for those. But as always, guys, have a good day, and I will see you in the next one.